You walk into a cute little cafe. Exposed brick, soft jazz, a barista who knows your name. You think, I could do this. You start dreaming about owning your own coffee shop. Here's the problem. That dream quietly bankrupts more people than almost any other small business. Not because the coffee is bad, not because the vibe is off, because nobody shows you the real math before you sign the lease. Right now, roughly 6 out of every 10 cafes shut down within 5 years. Not because owners didn't work hard. They worked insanely hard. They just didn't understand where the money actually goes. And by the time they figured it out, their savings were gone. Today, we're breaking down the real cost of opening a cafe. The number is going to shock you. Here's the first thing that surprises everyone. A basic small cafe doesn't open for 10 grand. It doesn't open for 30. The real number, according to industry data, is somewhere between 80,000 and 300,000. Most first-time owners land around 150,000 to 200,000 before they've sold a single cup. Think about it. That's a down payment on a house. Gone before day one. And here's the part that really gets people. That number doesn't even include payroll for the next 6 months. Most experts say you need another 45,000 to 150,000 just sitting in reserve. Because a new cafe doesn't turn a profit on day one or month one, sometimes not even year one. You're not just buying an espresso machine, you're buying 18 months of survival. And most people budget for the machine and forget the survival part. Let's make this real. Imagine Sarah. She saves for 3 years, pulls together $150,000, and opens her dream cafe in a busy neighborhood. Month 1, she's slammed. Line out the door. She thinks, I made it. But here's what she doesn't see yet. Rent alone in a decent location runs $8,000 to $12,000 a month in bigger cities. Add labor. A small team of baristas at $15 to $18 an hour adds up to $12,000 to $20,000 a month just in wages. Add insurance, add licensing renewals, add a broken espresso machine nobody budgeted for. Sarah's busy cafe is losing money every single month, and she can't figure out why, because she's staring at a full room, not a spreadsheet. Busy doesn't mean profitable. That's the trap almost nobody warns you about. Let's talk about margins, because this is where the illusion breaks completely. A latte sells for around $5.75. The actual ingredients, the beans, the milk, the cup, the lid, cost about $1.20. That looks like a 79% profit margin. Feels amazing, right? Here's the crazy part. That's the gross margin, not what you keep. Once you subtract labor at roughly 32% of revenue, occupancy around 11%, and other operating costs near 12%, that $4.55 of profit shrinks down to about 89 cents per drink. That's 15%, not 79%. Industry-wide, the median independent cafe nets somewhere between 7 and 10% profit, and new shops in year one often sit closer to 2% to 6%. You're not running a high-margin business. You're running a business that looks high-margin from the outside. Now here's where it gets worse. So far, we've only talked about the cafes that survive. We haven't even touched the real killer yet, the thing that quietly drains almost every new owner before they even notice it happening. It's not rent, it's not labor, it's not even the coffee itself. It's a cost that doesn't show up on the sign, doesn't show up in the marketing, and barely shows up in most business plans, but eats more cash than almost anything else on this list. Stick around, because Part 8 is going to show you exactly how much this one hidden factor costs, and why it's the actual reason most cafes close. Not bad coffee, not bad location. Something else entirely. Most people planning a cafe do one thing wrong from the very start. They budget for the opening, not the operating. They picture the grand opening, the Instagram photos, the ribbon cutting. They don't picture month 14, when the initial excitement has faded, regulars haven't fully built up yet, and the bills keep coming exactly on schedule. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. Most cafes don't fail because the coffee was bad. They fail because the owner ran out of cash before the business had time to mature. Break even for a new cafe typically takes 18 to 36 months. That's not a typo. Almost 3 years of grinding before you're reliably in the green. If your reserves run dry at month 10, it doesn't matter how good your latte art is. Compare two owners. Owner A opens with $150,000, spends almost all of it on a beautiful build-out, marble counters, custom signage, and keeps just $10,000 in reserve. Owner B opens with the same $150,000, chooses a simpler, cheaper build-out, and keeps $60,000 sitting untouched for operating costs. 6 months in, both cafes are seeing similar foot traffic. But owner A is already panicking, missing supplier payments, cutting staff hours because the cash ran thin. Owner B is calm. Slow months don't threaten the business because the reserve absorbs the shock. 2 years later, guess which one is still open? This is the difference between decorating a business and funding one. The prettiest cafe with no cushion still closes. The plain cafe with a real reserve survives long enough to actually build a customer base. Remember that hidden cost from earlier? Here it is: labor. Not the wage itself, the scheduling inefficiency around it. Most new owners overstaff during slow hours because they're afraid of long lines, and understaff during rushes because they're trying to save money. Both mistakes bleed cash. Labor typically eats 30% or more of total revenue, making it the single largest controllable expense in the entire business. The solution isn't cutting wages. It's matching staffing to actual demand, hour by hour, using real sales data instead of guesswork. Cafes that track drinks per labor hour and adjust schedules weekly consistently land in that healthier 15% to 20% net margin range, instead of the painful 2% to 6% most new owners experience. This single shift, treating labor as data instead of a fixed cost, is often the line between surviving and closing. So how do you actually get this right from day one? Step 1. Cut your startup budget by 20% before you even start looking at spaces. If your realistic number is $150,000, plan around $120,000 for build-out and equipment, and protect the rest as reserve. Step 2. Choose your format based on math, not aesthetics. A full sit-down cafe with a kitchen can cost $200,000 to $400,000. A small espresso bar or kiosk can open for $50,000 to $100,000. If your reserve can't survive 18 months either way, go smaller. Step 3. Negotiate your lease before falling in love with the space. Every extra $1,000 in monthly rent needs dozens of extra drinks sold, every single day just to break even. Small rent differences compound into massive annual pressure. Step 4. Track drinks per labor hour from week 1, not year 3. This single number tells you instantly if you're overstaffed or understaffed before it drains your account. Step 5. Engineer your menu around margin, not just popularity. Drip coffee and cold brew often carry 85% or higher gross margins, while food items can sit as low as 40%. Push high-margin drinks. Treat food as a traffic driver, not a profit center. Step 6. Build your 6-month reserve before opening day, not after. This isn't optional money. This is the difference between weathering a slow February and shutting the doors permanently. Do these 6 things, and you shift from being part of that 60% failure statistic to running the kind of cafe that's still serving regulars 5 years from now. Let's be blunt about what kills cafes fastest. Mistake 1. Spending the entire startup budget on aesthetics instead of keeping a real cash reserve. Mistake 2. Pricing drinks based on what competitors charge instead of what your actual costs demand. Mistake 3. Hiring a full team on day 1 instead of scaling staff as demand proves itself. Mistake 4. Signing a lease in a cool neighborhood without checking actual foot traffic data first. Mistake 5. Ignoring labor costs until the monthly statement arrives instead of tracking it daily. Every single one of these mistakes is avoidable. None of them require more money. They require more discipline and a willingness to treat this like a real business with real numbers, not a passion project running on vibes and good intentions. Picture 2 versions of your future. In version 1, You open your cafe the way most people do, following excitement instead of data, spending the reserve on marble counters, hoping the crowds figure out the rest. 18 months later, you're part of that 60% statistic, closing the doors, explaining to friends and family what happened. In version 2, you open with a protected reserve, disciplined staffing, and a margin-engineered menu. Month 14 arrives, the slow season everyone warns about, and instead of panicking, you're calm, because you planned for exactly this. 3 years later, that cafe isn't just surviving. It's the neighborhood fixture people build their mornings around. Same dream, same love for coffee. The only difference is which numbers you respected before you signed that lease. Let's bring this together. Opening a cafe realistically costs $80,000 to $300,000. Gross margins look amazing at 75 to 80%, but real net profit sits closer to 7% to 10%, sometimes as low as 2% in year one. 60% of cafes don't make it past 5 years, and the reason is almost never bad coffee. It's running out of cash before the business matures, which typically takes 18 to 36 months. The fix isn't complicated. Protect your reserve, choose format based on math, track labor like data, and engineer your menu around margin. This isn't about discouraging you from opening a cafe. It's about making sure that if you do, you're the owner still standing in year 5, not another cautionary story. Here's one thing almost nobody talks about: taking over an existing cafe space instead of building from raw. This one decision alone can cut your startup cost by $30,000 to $100,000, because the plumbing, electrical, and ventilation for food service are already in place. That's often the single biggest line item eliminated just by choosing your location strategically. Also, before you commit real capital, work in a cafe for 6 months first, not as research, as real, hands-on education in how brutal a rush hour actually feels, how fast inventory disappears, and how thin the margins really are up close. That unpaid experience is worth more than most business plans, because you'll walk into ownership already knowing what the spreadsheets only hint at. So here's the real question. Are you the kind of person who dreams at Instagram photos, or the kind who respects the numbers before they matter? Because the difference between those two people is the difference between joining that 60% failure rate or building something that's still standing 5 years from now. This channel exists for exactly this, breaking down the real economics behind businesses that look simple from the outside, but are actually built on numbers most people never see. If you want to actually understand money before it costs you your savings, subscribe, because the next video might just save you from the mistake that ends someone else's dream. Don't let it be yours.